Hey everyone, rudyxx here to talk about another RPGalooza game, Heroine Anthem. For those of you that don't know, RPGalooza is a project I started involving playing through a huge list of RPG titles, ranging from Western style to Japanese. While I'm not a huge RPG connoisseur, I do like to dabble in them every now and then, so hopefully I can provide for you all a more modern day gamer's look at my experiences with them. And with that out of the way, on to Heroine Anthem. So, first off, shoutouts to the 2 or 3 people watching this that actually have heard of this game. And for the rest of you, Heroine Anthem is an older Chinese point-and-click adventure-style game that came out around the early 2000-ish era. I'm honestly not sure how I originally found out about this game, but somewhere around the early 2000s, I was actually introduced to the second game in this series. I don't remember exactly when I finally got around to playing the first game, but I think it wasn't until roughly 2010 or so, and I got super stuck at one point and gave up until I eventually found a video walkthrough of the game a few years later. The story is basically that this girl, Ida, almost drowns and then gets turned into a mermaid by a prince, and for like 3/4 of the game, you're underwater trying to find a way to turn back into a human and get back to land. The gameplay is mostly point-and-click adventure style things with random mini-games mixed in and an occasional like RPG style battles that I'll get more into later. A lot of the early game is basically doing random quests for townspeople, like finding this old lady's child while searching for a way to essentially return Ida to normal. And some of these quests can be really annoying though, because you have to click on the exact pixel for an event to happen, and there's typically zero indication as to what items are interactable and what aren't. For the most part though, there's a lot of really fun parts of this with a bunch of wacky mini games that range from actually really fun to impossible clicking RNG. However, the battle system for this is probably one of the biggest draw-ins in terms of gameplay. There's basically 3 areas to the battlefield, with each area being a 3x3 box. The left and right areas are where the enemies are positioned, with your party being in the middle section. You set up most of your actions based on a timeline, and each move costs a certain amount of time before it gets used. Many of the encounters you can actually just fill the entire timeline with moves and never touch anything else, but for the more difficult encounters like boss fights, it's a constant management system where you might start doing one thing and then cancel it out to do a completely different thing instead. It's one of those that starts out rather simple, but as you progress through the game and gain more skills and enemies get stronger, you start having to really strategize a lot better, and it gets pretty involved. Stuff like where you're positioned in the area starts to slowly make a bigger impact as you get hit with skills that only affect certain formations, and it just continues to expand upon itself as you progress. Another great part of this game is the soundtrack. If you don't really ever have any desire to play this game because of the language barrier, I at least suggest checking out the soundtrack at some point, as it's one of my all-time favorites. There's not a whole lot of tracks in the game, but there aren't any bad tracks on the soundtrack, so it's a solid 10 out of 10 for music. This game also has some of my favorite art in a video game. The general look of anything from characters to background is pretty amazing and incredibly well animated for its time. And despite how old this game might be at this point, the artwork and graphics of the game still hold up fairly well, even though you can definitely tell this game was from late 90s to like the 2000-ish era. So for RPGalooza, I actually give this game an 8 out of 10. I would probably have given it a better score, but some of the ambiguity on where to go at times gets incredibly rough. There's a lot of wander around talking to NPCs until something happens that goes on in this game, and it's enough that it can become a huge buzzkill in the overall flow of things. Outside of that, I really love this game and would strongly suggest playing it if you ever have the opportunity to do so. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video and would like to look forward to many more RPG reviews in the future, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you're interested in seeing me actually play through a variety of games in real time, make sure you follow my Twitch stream at twitch.tv/rudyxx. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.